Hey, we're ready to have our weekly Metaphysical Matters.
Yeah, well, let's give folks just a few minutes to get on if you want to. And while people are joining us, if you sent me a story, and I bet a lot of people on Facebook saw it, about you're a drug dealer.
What?
Don't you remember the misunderstanding? I thought somebody was calling you because they thought you were a drug.
God. I think everybody and their brother actually have posted other embarrassing things since then. But yeah,
I didn't get to see the other ones.
You don't want to. No, I'm sorry. You people have already seen it for sure. But while we're waiting for people to come on, and I'm seeing today, I remembered not to swipe you away. I apologize for all of our technical issues. But yeah, some guy called me and he says he was calling about my drugs. And I told him I didn't have any drugs. He had the wrong number. He called out my number, called out my address, and his daughter was sure. This is the house where the drugs were, and I just lost it. I'm getting mean in my old age. Excuse me? I am a 61-year-old grandma. I don't be going around here selling drugs. I don't know where you got your information. And in my mind, I'm thinking, has my son gone mental? Has my husband gone mental? And they're selling drugs out of my house? Oh, I was hot. And he says, all right, well, if you're sure you don't have any drums. Drums. Selling my kids drums. And I forgot. Yeah, I do things. It's sad. I think people like me, we're kind of in a zone a lot of time. And we're not real grounded. And that's my excuse. And I'm sticking to it.
Okay. Well, with that, we'll start officially.
Yeah, I think we've got a few people watching. So, yay.
Cool.
Thank you all for coming. Go ahead.
All right. It's Metaphysical Matters with Angela Moore. I'm Kim Clark. And what we talked about that we would discuss today is past lives. And what started us thinking about this was a story that came out last week about the little boy, I believe in Scotland, who says that he started remembering all these details from Princess Diana's life. Intimate little things that nobody knew, that this kid had no way of knowing, and the parents did some research and found out that he was accurate in the things that he was describing. So it reminded us of the whole past life thing. And it's interesting, Angela, now it's so much more accepted. At least people are open to consider the concept of past lives much more than they used to. Back in the early 50s when the Bridie Murphy story came out, there was a woman under hypnosis who remembered that a lifetime somewhere in Europe, and then in the 60s there was the Search for the Girl with the Blue Eyes, which was a book that kind of broke that open to the mainstream. But here we are now in 2019. People are much more interested in at least thinking about it. And I was wondering how it came into your frame of looking at the world, because I know, like me, you grew up in a pretty traditional household in Western North Carolina. I'm sure reincarnation was not something that was discussed in your house. So how did it come into your awareness?
I never did not believe in that. It never occurred to me not to believe. Even as a little bitty kid, I remember watching some stuff on TV about dolphins or something. It was just something on TV, and I'm just remembering, for lack of a better term, things about not wanting to eat fish ever again, ever, as long as I lived, again. Never want to eat fish again. And I was little, like preschool, but I can't. And I've had things happen.
You don't eat fish?
I cannot even stand the thought of it. And oddly enough,
I did not know that.
No, my sister, Sandy, if you're on here, she can't either. And I think that...
Were you a mermaid?
My sister was. Sandy was.
Really?
I believe she was. But
wow.
I think with me, I might have been a pirating kind of person. I think I might have been set out somewhere, and that's all I had to live on. And that was sort of what I was remembering a little bit when I was little. And I think that Dylan has even made remarks about he and Batman, who's what he calls his Batball, having, fish in a boat. And he said something about being, and this was little, he was little, and I didn't tell him this stuff. What would he know about this? But he was making some remark like, all we had to eat was fish. I'm so tired of fish. So I thought, that is just bizarre, because, that he would be saying this out of the blue. It's not like that was a memory I had when I was about 3 or 4 years old, not when I'm carrying around randomly. So, yeah, but I think that sometimes we might carry some stuff in, some traumas, some things that maybe we're done with, lessons we've been there and had. So maybe we carry some of this into this realm with us. And, for whatever reason, traumas. I've had people come to see me that felt that they were carrying a past life trauma. And maybe we work together, and maybe sometimes we've been able to resolve it, because they have to remember that this time, you're safe. You're not going to get killed in a battle like that, or you're not going to get this bad thing or that bad thing. So sometimes we do carry, I think, trauma from past lives maybe into this world, maybe as, I did. Maybe somebody might have starved in a past life and they overeat in this life. I actually have wondered about that with myself too, although my husband eats more than I do, and he is a skinny person, so I don't, sometimes you're what you are. And when I was, just for the record, when I was young, thin, and good looking. I just need to get that out there. Having said that, I feel judged, okay? So anyway, I think that people can get a regression with somebody that does regressions. I could hook you up with somebody I trust. It's actually my cousin. Or you can maybe do this. Don't make things hard. First of all, that's behind you, so you don't really want to dwell on it. But sometimes you might, when you're half awake, half asleep, that's when you're psychically powerful. And you can maybe, just as you're drifting off to sleep, you can ask yourself, show me who I was. And then what might happen, it might not, but very often it will happen. You will start, like every time, for example, you might turn on the TV, there's a documentary on a certain culture, or all of a sudden somebody starts giving you presents from some random part of the world in history or something. So very often, and this is really seriously true, you want to know something, ask. Ask the universe and leave it alone. When you ask, you don't ask like this, show me, I need to know. Show me, ask like, I wonder, can you show me? Then leave it alone and see what flows in. I do believe that's one of the better ways, and that you can do what you want. And somebody's asking me about connection to Kohala. Is that a Hawaiian thing? If it is, I believe I told you that in a session, if I'm not mistaken. Very often, I'll be talking to somebody, and one guy, I don't know if he's on here or not, he might see it later, but he knows who he is. I'm sitting there, he's a therapist. I'm sitting there talking to him. I'm looking down, look back up, and he's wearing a collar. He's a priest. It's like, oh my God, I didn't realize you were. I felt kind of embarrassed, because I don't know if I didn't realize that he was wearing that, or you have to forgive me, because I might be, telling you not exactly the same. I do tend to get a little bit, I think I'm getting dementia, people, but whatever. I know I saw him wearing a collar. I saw him as a priest, and then he wasn't, and it was shocking to me that I saw that, and it wasn't even there. I believe that he is carrying that past life energy, and that's part of the reason maybe he chooses now to work as a therapist. Someone told me one time that people, I think I was a nun, people that told us sometime that people who worked in that way often carried that kind of energy into this life, and we still want to do helping stuff. Anyway, and she told me that was a volcano. I knew it was Hawaiian, and I believe that the answer is yes. I think she's only one of 3 people I've ever met in my life that have that kind of energy. I'm sure other people do. I just think she's only one of 3 that I have met that actually has, maybe 4, a kinship with a volcano, an energy that is actually a living type of energy, for lack of a better term. But anyway, people often come and say, should I have a past life? And sometimes I can, and sometimes, maybe I can't, but maybe I can get a glimpse. But the thing is, do what I told you to do and find your own answers. You don't want to be dependent on everybody and their brother, because, you got to do what resonates with you. I'm sorry if I'm too long-winded, Kim.
No, that's great. So when you're doing a reading with somebody, the past life information, I mean, it may jump out at you. You may see it when somebody asked.
Yeah, people will often ask, and I have to struggle and feel, and I might finally, I start getting an image come in. And some people, I think too many. I can't even figure it out. And some of them, maybe a newer soul. Maybe they just stepped into this realm. But very often I will see that, and ask me about traveling with other people.
Well, we were going to get into that because once you get moved past the individual reincarnating, Then you think about, okay, what about groups of people, pairs of people? So we travel with the same people?
I think
Lifetime
we
to
have the
lifetime?
same bunch, which is very depressing if you think about it, or very good. I don't know how you want to look at it. I think that, and maybe this is just what we think, we don't know, but let's just say you choose to go through, or whatever happens when we're the other side and we go through this, we do have soul contracts with people, and that we may meet up with people here to finish something or start something. Maybe we decide to meet people to have a baby together, or to bring another soul in, or maybe we choose to meet to work out stuff. It's all about learning. It's about the hard knocks of being human. It's about going to a school of humanity, to know what it is. How can you know what it is to be human if you've never experienced it? I can't tell you what it's like to be me, and you understand it. You need to experience it. And so we do, I think, sometimes we have soul contracts. We say, let's meet planet Earth this day, this time we'll do this thing. And we go, and then you get what I call a soul recognition. And that usually happens from age 35 on, but you can do it at any time. And it's like you just know them. It's like, I remember looking at her one day, it's like she was a client, and it's nothing but, I liked her, whatever, but I don't know what it was. It's like, she said something. I was looking away, and I looked over at her, and it was like, it's all I can describe it.
Oh, that's
And
interesting.
it was like, I don't know, from that point on, everything in my life changed in regards to my relationship with her, and in other ways I was not going to be aware of that it was going to change. It was bizarre, but it was that soul recognition. And I saw it in somebody else's eyes one time. I actually was with her when this other person was walking along, and I saw this other person look at her, and I happened to be looking at their eyes, and it's like their eyes did this weird jump, and I thought, soul recognition. And I knew they would have work to do. So it's just there. Have that for what it's worth.
So, but the people that you have a soul contract with, it may not be people that you end up being wonderful friends with, or partners, or
Could be your murderer.
yeah, I was going to say.
It's like, I will learn how to go and learn the darkness of humanity. I will try to overcome the darkness of humanity. And maybe I will make an agreement. I will be your victim. And if you can overcome the darkness that you're going to be dealing with and learn about, then you will not harm me. But if you do harm me, maybe that means that you failed, but I made that sacrifice for you. Now, these are just theories. Please don't go all pieces and write me bad things, okay? I'm just talking. But that doesn't mean like, oh, well, we don't have to punish somebody if they've hurt somebody or nothing like that. It just means
That's part of the deal.
If you ever want to step back and, just wonder about things, this is one way you can do it. And then there's somebody at my door.
I wonder if it's somebody whose soul you will recognize.
I wonder if it's somebody I set up an appointment with and totally forgot about. Kim, be asking the next question. I'm going to be listening and telling somebody to go away or whatever.
Well, one of the other things that we talked about in terms of reincarnation was what the difference was between a soul contract and a twin flame. And I'll be really interested to see what Angela has to say about that when she comes back from answering the door. But also we just had a question too about whether you can choose during the flow of your existence to, after a lifetime, to say, okay, I'm done now, I'm going to move on, I'm going to ascend or regenerate or go to heaven, or however it is you choose to think about that. So was it just the mailman?
It was the mail.
Okay. All right.
It was my mail, and I had a certified letter, and it was very important that I signed for that. And the mail lady ran early today.
Okay.
So,
Well,
I love live, and this is why. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, well, let me ask you about a question that popped up while we were talking a while ago. Somebody asked, do you get to, in your opinion, now we know that you're not you're not representing yourself as a definitive authority. This is just how you feel about these things, how you sense them. But can you somewhere along the way say, okay, I'm done with my lifetimes, and now I want to go to heaven? Or
I don't know.
Okay.
I think that probably that's a decision that we make with the help of a higher authority. I think we left who I perceive to be God, and I know some of the people that are watching don't have any, that's nonsense to them. I don't care. That's my belief, I think that I am a believer. I do feel that maybe we left God and all that was good and holy because we said we want to be human. as Captain Kirk said, I need to feel my pain, in order to be whole. So I think we went away as the prodigal does. And I think it takes a long time, maybe many lifetimes, to work our way back. And then we'll still never be good enough, but through grace, we can get back there. And I don't know when that happens. I know I see people that say, this is my last lifetime, and I'm not doing this again. And I'm thinking, yeah, you don't know. I mean, I think, I want a do-over. I want a do-over. I have not been satisfied with my performance in this life so far.
Yet.
But I feel like, I'll tell you what I feel like. I feel like Sylvester the cat. And when Sylvester the cat wanted to fight the mouse, the giant mouse, which in fact was a baby kangaroo. But he says to his son, I'm going to go in here to this junkyard, and it was, and I'm going to go in there and I'm going to fight that mouse. And he says, and you don't let that door come up, and you lock that door, and you don't let me out. No matter what I do, I'm going to stay in there till I beat him up and all this stuff. So he goes in there, the door closes, he sees the baby mouse is it's a kangaroo, thinks it's a mouse, turns around, starts banging on that door. Let me out of here, let me out of here, let me out of here. But his son, he's just, poor father. It's like the shame of it all. The thing is, I think that's it. We are real sure that we are not going to want to leave, and we want to make sure we stay and do this hard work. But then we get here, we can't get out fast enough, But I do think that there are people that have passed over, and I feel them, their spirits. I think they often help us in ways we don't understand. I think that they can leave us messages, like, I've told people dimes and stuff. And so I think maybe this soul group, maybe we'll come back as a group together. Maybe we'll be done. I don't know. Don't pretend to know. I don't like to make definitive answers for things I don't definitively know.
I think that's probably a wise thing. Hey, what's the difference between somebody you have a soul contract with and a twin flame?
Well, that would be more of like, they say that in the beginning there were two halves to every soul, and they were torn apart. Bershida, I can't remember the words, I'm sorry. But torn apart, and they have spent lifetime after lifetime trying to find each other back. And some people say that that's happening now, but I don't know that. I will tell you that if that is the case, I do not think it would be necessarily probably a strong soul recognition, and I don't think it would necessarily run real smooth either. I think it could be something that could be, very challenging. But I think there would be soul recognition, and you wouldn't be able to get away. It's not the same thing as a soulmate, okay? Here's the thing. People have chemistry. They think that this is, never felt this before. I know this is my forever soul, twin soul, and it's probably not. I think that probably will come together in the end times. That's what I think. Okay? And maybe this is the end times now. I don't know. Could be. But I feel like that soulmates, too, we can have a contract with them. We'll meet, we'll marry, we'll have babies, or you'll be my twin. It could also be extremely intense. But again, you have to be careful. Sometimes it's looking back that you can see that was a soulmate. Sometimes it can be, chemistry that makes you think things that are really based in the way you feel right now, rather than the work that you may have a contract to do. And it's probably a little bit of both. And you can have a soul contract, non-romantic, obviously. You might have a contract to bring a certain soul into this world, or to be bestest friends with somebody, or to work a job together. That's, who knows. In other words, we cannot decide and confine it to be this is the way it is, the end. There's a whole lot more stuff than we can see here. Horatio, I can't get my quotes right today.
So do you think that even when you get to a big group of people and souls, like a nation, is it possible an entire nation would reincarnate together? I think it's very possible that our soul group could encompass things that are beyond our mortal understanding. And I have felt leaders, and I think I can see them in history as a leader from a different time. So I actually think there are some leaders that maybe have to be a leader a few times before they get it right. So I think that certain people who are very huge in this world
they do come back around, maybe till they, like I said, till they get it right. And whatever get it right means, maybe it means like Groundhog Day, the movie, which is sort of what past lives are all about. Maybe finally you get it right and everything's hunky-dory. But maybe it's not that way at all. Maybe it's that you did what you needed to learn, whatever that was, and maybe it's personal or, to you.
I get the feeling that some of the big names that we see in the news a lot now, not political names, but people who are making a big difference in our lives for good or ill, I get the feeling that they're reincarnated from, well, let me just say, Mark Zuckerberg to me seems very Roman. When I look at him, I see a Roman.
Yeah, I can see that. He looks it in this life, and we might actually carry physical attributes from a past life to this life too, if you believe in such things. I absolutely believe that somebody might have actually been wounded in a past life, and maybe even comes into this realm with a similar wound, even, but a similar purpose, and maybe similar physical characteristics. I think there have been cases, and by the way, you can look up, Google it, you can find all grades of information and stories, true stories. You were asking earlier too. For example, I was in a dentist's office when I was 11 or 12, and I was reading a story about, a child who had known stuff and all this, and also other thing. Dateline did a story about a kid that there's no rational explanation of it because he knew family names and everything else. There's so much information out there. Can you reincarnate as an adult, or do you have? I don't know how to answer that. I'm not sure exactly what that means. So
I think they're talking about walk-ins, perhaps.
If you're talking about walk-ins, yes, thank you. See, that's why she does the show. Yeah, I think you can do both. I think you can as infant or as a walk-in as an adult, which is a whole nother episode.
Maybe we'll do that next week.
Maybe we will.
Okay.
Maybe we will.
But we're talking about Mark Zuckerberg. I also get the feeling that Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, the three of them, they just seem to me like they are influential people from another time who were in that other time together, and now they're here together.
I don't know, but hey, you know what? Why not? I think it's very possible. Ask me if humans are the only people filling up these lights.
Well, you know what? That is so funny that you bring that up, because I had written here, I thought, okay, we're going to really get weird.
Weird.
If we're talking about reincarnation, and I was going to say, is this limited to the human body? And as we're talking about Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, and the technological end of things, is it possible that that our souls could reincarnate as AI?
Ooh, that wasn't what I was thinking you was going to ask, but yeah, I don't see why our soul can't fit in another being, but I think we'd have to evolve to do it. In other words, I think human soul is designed to fit in a human body. So therefore, I think that we need this kind of vessel, and I think sometimes we get a bad download, you might say, into these human vessels, which might explain why people have a whole lot of problems sometimes. And so I do think that is a thing that that could be a bad download. And so maybe for AI, we have to get the vessel to be a really good fit. But I also think that maybe maybe there are other people from other realms that also incarnate in human form, which might explain some people who really are not, that don't know how to human. And somebody just asked their birthmarks. Yeah, that's what I was actually just talking about. I do think, I had one on my neck somewhere, and I used to get kidded that somebody in the past life must have had a hickey, So, and maybe that was a one, maybe, who knows. But yeah, I do. And yes, somebody was mentioning Princess Di. We actually started out.
Yeah, it's Australia, that's right. I said that wrong. But yeah, that's how we got started, was that article about that boy.
When I first saw that, I think, oh my God, and I ignored it a lot. And then one day it's like, okay, finally I'm going to read it because it keeps coming up. And then when I saw the information that he had and that his parents were just like actual regular people, I thought, dang, this sounds like one of those stories. And here's the thing, age 6 or so, going to forget it. Kids, highly likely, they're going to forget it. Very often a kid will come into this world with this knowledge from age 0 to 5 or 6. And as well as being psychic and everything else, and about that time, it goes away. Some people are special, and they will carry certain memories. And a lot of people, as I already said, may carry bits and pieces and feelings and whatnot, some trauma. But most of the time, they're going to kind of forget about it.
So to kind of finish up what you're talking about other than human consciousness incarnating into human bodies.
Yeah, I think that there could be alien beings walking around in human bodies. I see it all the time. I'm not taking it back. I said it. I usually tell people when I feel it, do you know, I don't think you're actually quite human. So I do think that there are other beings, and why, I don't know why. I didn't make everything in the world. I don't know. I just know what I see and feel. And yeah, I think there are some people that are masquerading. It's like this is their human mask. But sometimes I think they're learning also about how to be human. And this is the best way to get it. You're not going to get it from reading a book. You're going to have to know through experience. I don't know why. I would just go ahead and hang up this whole conversation if I was you now, if I'm being too weird. I don't know. Do what you want. I'm just saying sorry. Apologize for everything I've said if I've offended you or if I've let you down in any way, okay? Feel free to just overlook me. But, this is just some interesting things that I think I see and feel, and there it is. There ain't nothing I can do about it.
And PJ just says, you just wish they would go ahead and do disclosure on it.
They are. They're disclosing. They're disclosing daily. I mean, it's just slow motion, but it's getting a little bit faster and a little bit faster, and it's really not, it's actually already happening. When you've got freaking astronauts telling you themselves, and you can Google it, that's pretty much coming from a higher source. But right now, that Congress thing that they had where all these people, the minister from Canada, it's there. But I've told you before, I'll tell you again, the little story of my Chihuahua, showing her picture in the...
always comes down to the Chihuahua.
It always comes down to Chihuahua. I show her image in the mirror, and I'm saying, looky, Ren, looky. And Ren is, it's right there. But she refuses to see what is there. And while a lot of us refuse to maybe see our true reflection because we don't want to deal with it, in this case it's like, how can you just go that far and pretend that, something as a humanity, that is something that's so obvious, maybe even so reflective of us, but we refuse to see. I think when we're ready to see, we'll see. Somebody told a story, and this may be bull, I don't know. It's probably made up, but just in case it's not, they said that when the Spaniards came over and the natives that were here could see the waves, if I'm not mistaken, from the ships, but they couldn't see the ships because they'd never seen anything like that, so they could not make sense of it. Obviously they did after a time, and somebody did and explained it to people, and maybe then they did, but for a time they just, like, their brain wouldn't wrap around it because it was so alien to them. So maybe they're there sitting in a cloud and we see a cloud. Maybe they want us to see the cloud and they're creating that illusion, but maybe we could see something else if we were maybe able to open up part of our mind that would allow us to. And that is so off the subject as to be ridiculous, but you know what? That's what came up.
Well, let's just kind of reel it back in a little bit because we were talking about other than human spirits being in human bodies. I have read, I bet a lot of people who read metaphysical stuff online have run across this. There's a lot of people saying that right now there are spirits incarnating here in human bodies from other places to get this thing back on track or to just be here during this incredible transformation of the planet. Does that ring true to you?
Probably so. I think so.
The planet is actually, the planet as a whole is raising its vibrational level.
Yes and no. Okay. I think for every rise you have in good, you have another rise in evil. Every rise you have in evil, you have a rise in good. So while I think there may be absolutely beings that have incarnated here to help lead and put us into a better path, there's probably another bunch that's coming here to thwart it every chance they get. So, But that's just me.
Yeah, I have no doubt about that. Okay, well, we've kind of wobbled all over the place.
That's what we do.
Really, really interesting stuff. We're about at the 30-minute mark. You feel finished?
Yeah, I believe. Before we go, people, ask me something real quick that would be of interest to others. You got anything? Type it in now.
But I'm just so interested to see how much entertainment is, we talked about this already, but how much entertainment is bringing in the whole UFO stuff, and also disclosure of other things. Like, I've kind of got hooked on that TV show. I'm always 3 years behind everybody else. The Stranger, what is it?
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things.
Love that.
See, I'm hooked on it, but I don't know the name of it. But they're really going into the MK Ultra and all of that programming, the stuff that the CIA and others have been involved in. And from what I've seen so far, I'm about, maybe 5 or 6 shows in, they're covering it pretty accurately. It's pretty remarkable.
I think it's always, and I've said this before, starting with Teletubbies, I think that we are conditioned, often conditioned through, media like that, through entertainment's what I'm trying to say, in order to help us be ready for whatever is being presented to us. I think media is a form of communication, maybe of education, and sometimes to open our mind to prepare us for things, sometimes to validate things, and sometimes, for maybe nefarious purposes. But I also think that, there it went. See? What are we talking about?
Well, let's just pop up here to...
Wait, it was important, darn it.
Okay.
Well, if I don't remember, it's probably because I'm not supposed to. Maybe somebody took that out of my mind for a reason. Because I do think that happens. Sometimes I do think that, sometimes people have asked me stuff, and it's like I do feel this need, like it's not supposed to be talked about right now, that it's not best to talk about something right now. So I actually do think that sometimes... I don't know, there's a time and place maybe for us to know things, and a time and place for us not. 2 people just asked about time travel.
Yeah, which fascinates me. Absolutely fascinates me. You think it's possible? Are people doing it?
I think that sometimes we step out of time. I think I did it this morning, and I'm not kidding you. I am really good with time. I know timing really well. Of course, not as well as I used to since everything's kind of slipping. But honestly, I'm looking at a clock, and it's like 7:30 or something, and I am telling you that at least 20 minutes passed. I look at the clock, and it was like a minute, and I thought, I think I'm stepping out of time. So I think sometimes we actually do step out or into time. I think we might step ahead. In a previous episode of this, I told you a story about somebody else who had actually arrived at a destination that would not even be a possible thing. So I think there's inadvertent time spaces that we can do that. All right, having said that, I think that probably there is a way to travel. I think they're learning that. I think that we might create, a gazillion timelines doing that too. Again, above my pay grade, I do think this. I tell young Angela stuff is going to happen, okay? Now, I know she needs to be prepared for it. I know I can't change it because I'm still remembering it, right? Sometimes I hope, maybe I have changed things or I don't remember, but through a lot of time and thought and experience, and I tell young Angela, don't do that. That will kill you, knowing full well I'm going to do it anyway. But I tell her, this might happen, and you're going to have to deal with this, you're going to deal with that, but you're going to also have this, and this. And I think those little voices, messages that I'm sending back in time, have helped me to still be here, maybe. I think that I told a picture of myself that I have as a little child. Sometimes I talk to her, and I tell her, man, it's going to be no good at all for a long time. But I try to tell her it's going to get better. So I think we can actually maybe send ourselves a message to prepare us and help us, and maybe to know stuff that we need to be prepared for. This really big event in the world is going to take place. So now if I'm getting a vibe that some really bad thing in the world is going to take place, it could very well be because my future self is telling me, this really big thing's going to happen. You need to be braced for it, which maybe that's why I pick up on world stuff. I don't know if I'm actually sending a message to the time, but I like to think maybe there's something, and I'm telling myself, this is 61, that's how old I am, people. 61-year-old Angela talking to you right now. You are so messing up, but you're going to make it. You're going to make it. You're going to make it. Just try to dial it back, whatever. And hopefully, I'm getting that as 30-year-old Angela. That might be too weird.
I remember a story you told me that I thought was so fascinating, where you actually saw yourself as a kid. That's a great story.
Okay. This happened, I was living with my grandparents where I grew up. I remember standing in the doorway of my bedroom looking into the kitchen and seeing this lady standing there cooking. And I thought, that's me. That's future me. And it was really strong. I never forgot it. But, life goes on, went on about my business. Years and years later, I bought that house. And one day, I was standing there cooking, and you can feel somebody looking at you, right? I could feel somebody looking at me. And I remembered it. It came back, and I thought, I know I'm back there. I'm not going to turn around. I don't want to see it. But I knew.
Chicken.
Yeah. I probably wouldn't have seen anything, but I felt it, and I stood there and just felt it until that feeling passed.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah.
Now, to get really weird with the whole time travel thing, I have read, and I do a lot of reading, as you guys can tell, and I know not to believe everything you read, but I love to sample what people are saying.
She likes ideas.
Yeah. And I read that I don't necessarily want to say it's the CIA, but some governmental agency has a program. They're so advanced, they have a program that's called 20 and Back, where people can sign up for service off planet, go serve 20 years, come back, and go through some type of process that makes it no time has passed at all. Most of them don't even remember they've been on the service, but some do. Personally, I think it's possible. Whether it's really happening, I don't know.
I think it's a very, very good possibility that it happened.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
And Melinda, thank you. That is so sweet of you to read that. I can't believe people actually read that. Thank you. That's very, very sweet of you.
All right. Well, I think we're about done for this time. What do you think?
I think we're about done too. And, we'll be back, Lord willing, if the creek don't rise. We'll be back.
We're all traveling through time at the rate of 1 second per second. That's about the best we can hope for.
Okay, I can deal with that.
And you come down to brass tacks, I guess that's about it.
I can deal with that. But to mind, who knows what we can do and where we can go with our consciousness. I think we probably can project that outside this reality. I think we have to sometimes in order to imagine. I think that we have to imagine in order to do that. And then I think by doing that, we gather information that we bring back too. I think we go through one reality to another, perhaps. Bruce, hey, Above Majestic. Okay.
That's right. It's David Wilcock's work. That's exactly right.
She knows all about that kind of stuff. Even if I know it, I'm going to forget it probably. But I tend to, as you know, Kim, trust what my experience
That's what
is.
keeps you a clear channel.
I don't want to say this happened because I read it somewhere. I might have read something somewhere after I've come to my conclusion, and then, it may or may not affect how I feel. Loretta Lynn said that she did not listen to other people's music. And that just irritated me because I'm thinking, she's missing stuff. And she even wrote, she said, Bruce said that was his friend or something. Anyway,
oh, wow.
he's I'm going to try this again. She said that her family says, well, you're missing all kinds of stuff. You're missing the Beatles. She said, I know I missed the Beatles. I missed this. And everybody's telling me that Dolly Parton, somebody's coming up, and if I can ever help her, I'll do it. But I don't listen to other people's music because it would interfere with the music that she writes. And it just bothered me because I wanted to go, but you're missing stuff and all. But, I get it. In order for me to make my music, which is this, I have to go with my source. I have to go with what I perceive. I am this way doing this job. I'm not just some person that just wants to talk a lot, even though I enjoy talking a lot, even though I really like telling stories and making people laugh. I am a little bit different than the average person in the way that I feel, see, do, and whatnot, and hopefully help some of you. And I can't do that if I got it from this guy's book or that girl's video. Now, I'm not immune to listening to anything, don't get me wrong. And sometimes people have said, Angela, what you just said, I just read about in this book, and this very famous person is saying exactly that. And then I kind of like it because I got validated. I like being validated. I love it. And I have read little bits and pieces here and there. But my reading is my source, which is pure energy, and it is higher level, and it's Angela. It's Angela. There it is.
And we could all take that approach for ourselves.
Yeah, you can. Or, if I want to learn about how to do CPR, I'm going to go take a CPR class. If I want to learn how to be, an effective healthcare worker or whatever, I'm going to take those classes. But when it comes to this, that's my job to gather that information and bring it back, not just decide that somebody else told me this is what to bring back. You understand? But for other people that want to learn that, who are not like this, and count your blessings, you're not like this, then they do need to be reading or listening to Metaphysical Matters with the lovely Kim Clark, the lovely and talented Kim Clark.
Okay, well, I think that's a good place to leave it.
I hope I'm not offensive. If I am, I apologize.
No, I mean, speaking for me, I think this has been great, really interesting.
Okie dokie, hopefully, Lord willing, the creek don't rise. As I said, by the way, I want to tell you this. When he said that, the man that said that was a senator or something like that, and he was saying he would be at Washington, D.C. for whatever reason he needed to be there. And he said in this letter he'd be there if the creek didn't rise, but he was actually talking about the Creek Indians rising up. So now every time I hear that saying, of course, I think of that.
That's funny.
Instead of just the creek out there in the yard. Alrighty, people. Bye.